If your dialogue sounds a little muddy, harsh, a little thin, maybe not just quite right, you don't need fancy plugins to fix it. You can probably use a little EQ work to make it sound a whole lot better. Today I'm breaking down every knob, button, and dial in DaVinci Resolve's EQ so that you can get clean, professional audio every single time you drop in some dialogue. And the best part is it's in the free version and the studio version. Hey, I'm Jason, and I help creators just like you make your audio sound amazing right inside of DaVinci Resolve. And today we're doing a full EQ crash course, everything you need to know. We're going to deep dive into the EQ, and I'm not going to give you a bunch of fluff or guessing, just clear explanations, real-world examples, and practical settings that you can use right away. Sennheiser is sponsoring today's video because both the MKE 600 and the MKE 400 are going on sale, and I'm going to tell you a little bit more about them later. But for now, let's jump into the EQ and start our deep dive. So we are in DaVinci Resolve right here. Now we can do this in the Edit tab, or we can do it in Fairlight. Now I'm going to jump over into Fairlight because I want to show you how to be able to save things as a preset once we get to the end of our editing. But you can do this right in the Edit tab too. And just to show you real quick, in the Edit tab here, if you wanted to open up the EQ in the Edit tab, make sure your mixer's open at the top, and you could just double click the EQ right here inside of your mixer, and then you've got the EQ right here. But in this case, let's jump into Fairlight so we can really deep dive and talk about all the knobs, buttons, and dials first. So we're going to go ahead and click on the musical notes at the bottom of the screen here, jump over into Fairlight. First things first, we need to look at the EQ and understand what it is and how it works. So let's go ahead and open up our EQ. Now we're going to be using the track level EQ here, but we've also got the option to apply an EQ as an effect, which we'll talk about more a little bit later. But let's take a look at the track level EQ first. So you want to make sure that your mixer's open right here. Come to one of your tracks, it doesn't matter which one, and double click your EQ right here. Now, if you don't see your EQ right here, you can always come up to the three dots right here, and then come down and make sure that your EQ is checked on right here. So go ahead and double click your EQ. One quick tip here before we get started working with our EQ is you want to take all of your dialogue from different people, different microphones, different locations, and you want to put them all in their own track. Because I like to use the EQ that's on a track level so that I have all the same kind of audio in one track. I can do the EQ once, and then you're going to be good to go. And you can take a look at each different microphone, different actor or voice, different location, and make the adjustments that you need to accordingly. So this is your EQ, your equalizer. And what we can do here is either boost or reduce certain frequencies throughout the frequency range. So let's just start with this window and talk about what's going on here. At the top of our EQ window right here, we can add in a preset. We've got our presets right here. If we click on the drop down, we can apply a few. And by default, there's a few already in there. We can A/B test different settings that we might put in for our EQ. We've got a reset button at the top here. You can copy and paste if you click on the three little dots here from one track to another or one EQ to another. Moving down, we've got an on-off switch right here. We can turn the EQ on or off. We have the equalizer type, and this is just going to tell you what type of EQ it is: earth, air, ice, and fire. So what these different equalizer types do is they kind of emulate classic mixing consoles for different kinds of EQ. So for example, the earth is your native Fairlight response. The air is like a classic SSL 4K. The ice is like a Neve V, and the fire is like a Focusrite. So usually I'm going to use earth, but you can pick whichever one that you like. Coming down to the graph area, this is our EQ. And if we were to play through a clip here, I'm just going to mute my clip. We'll see a little spectrum here of our audio frequencies. And then we've got our EQ, which is the cyan line here that tells us what kind of settings we changed. And in this case, we haven't changed anything yet, so it's just a flat line. Over on the right here, we have our dB level. Are we increasing our dB level for a certain frequency, or are we decreasing our levels for a certain frequency? We have a gain knob right here. So as we work with the EQ, a lot of times our levels are going to fall down a little bit and we need to boost them back up. So you can use your gain slider right here to boost things back up if you need to. So at the bottom of the window here, we have our frequency ranges, which goes from 0 all the way up to 22 kilohertz. And moving down below that, we have our 6 different bands of EQ. And these are the ways that we can change and modify the EQ. So I'm going to talk about band 1 and 6 together because they're very similar. And then bands 2, 3, 4, and 5 are also very similar. So band 1 in this area here to turn on band 1. I'm going to go ahead and click on band 1 and you can see it turns it on right here. Now by default, it's already got some settings applied to it. But if we wanted to tell Resolve what kind of curve we wanted to use, we can click on this little drop down. And under this menu right here, we have a low shelf. Next, we have a bell-shaped curve. We have a high shelf. And we have a high pass filter. So typically in band 1 here, you're going to want to use this high pass filter. The frequency says, where do I want to put this? What frequency on the EQ do I want to put it? And you can use the dial to change it. You can hover over the number, click, hold, and drag back and forth, or you can come up here and just grab the point and move it around. Now, because we're using a high pass filter, when I move this up and down, it's not going to move my line up and down, because a high pass filter is just going to say, hey, everything below the point that we're at, take that out. I don't want to hear that. So I can drag this and slide it up or down as far as I want. And then below that, we have the slope or the ratio of the filter that's being applied. So by default, it's 12. And that's fine. You can stick with that. Now, band 6 is going to work in a very similar way. We can see we can turn it on and off. We have the same type of filters, although you notice this first one goes the opposite way. So this is a low pass filter. So anything above the point we set is going to get cut out, and everything below it will pass through, and we'll hear that come out of DaVinci Resolve. You also have your low shelf, your bell shape, and your high shelf filter types. Again, your frequency, click, hold, and drag. If I turn it on and click, hold, and drag, you can also use the frequency knob. And you've got these same slope ratios that you can change. If you want to reset any of these dials, you can always just double click them and it's going to reset it to the default settings. So that is band 1 and 6. Now bands 2, 3, 4, and 5 can all be used in the same way. So we can turn the band on and off by clicking the name, band 2. We have our different types of filters. So if we click the drop down, we've got our low shelf, our bell. We have a peaking notch right here, and then we have a high shelf. So you can pick whichever one you like. A lot of times I like to use the bell-shaped curve, so let's select that one. And you notice then we get a Q factor down here. We'll talk about that in a second. Below that, we've got all these initials here, and this stands for low, mid-high, and high frequencies. So you can select one of these if you want, or you could just come to your frequencies, move it around wherever you'd like. Use the dial if you'd like, or just come on up into the top section here, grab your point and move it wherever you want to put it. Below that, we have gain. So we can make our frequency more or increase it, increase the gain, or we can reduce the gain of it. And we're going to talk about why you would do which in a minute here, once we get over what all the tools do. If you want to reset it, just double click it. And then we have Q factor here, and Q factor is going to tell us how many of the frequencies are going to get affected. So it's going to make like a bell-shaped curve. So if I pull point 2 up a little bit, and then I come down and adjust the Q factor, you can see it makes it really narrow or really wide. So if I want to affect a lot of frequencies, I make it wide. If I want to affect a few small frequencies or precision edit a little bit more, I'm going to make that narrower. So you're going to have to listen to your clip and figure out where to put it. We're going to work through examples and I'm going to show you how to do that in a minute. To reset, you can double click it. So bands 2, 3, 4, and 5 all work the same way. You can change the type of filter that you want to use, and it may look a little different. For example, on band 5, we've got the high shelf, so we don't get the Q factor because if we were to boost it up, it just makes a high shelf, right? If I grab 0.5 up here and moved it around, you can see we have a high shelf. That's what that filter type does. So you're not going to have that Q factor to affect more or less frequencies. So that is the basics of what's going on in the window here and kind of how you start to change some things within the EQ. Now, if I want to reset everything because I kind of messed it up a little bit, I'm going to go ahead and click on the reset icon up at the top right. So now that you understand how the EQ actually works and where you can get to it, now let's get into using it. So a couple things to keep in mind when you start working with your EQ. For the most part, you want to make cuts to your EQ or reduce frequencies before you want to start boosting things. The goal with EQ is to take out or remove things that don't sound good in our audio. Most of the time, if you've got things that don't sound great and you boost any of those frequencies, it's going to make it sound even worse. Now, the quality of your original recording is going to make a big difference in how good the audio is and how much EQ work you may or may not have to do to it. So keep that in mind. The better your recording is from the start, the more likely it is that you're going to have amazing audio at the end of the day. Now, that's not to say if your microphone wasn't great, or you just had an in-camera mic that you were using, or it just wasn't a great recording. It doesn't mean you can't make it good. It just means it's going to be easier if you have a better recording to start with. Before we jump into making that audio awesome, I want to say a quick thank you to Sennheiser for sponsoring today's video. I've been a fan of Sennheiser for years. I've used their products for a long time, and the MKE 400 and the MKE 600 are both on sale now, so I want to let you guys know about that deal. $249 for the MKE 600, which is a deal. I paid a lot more for it, and the MKE 400 is on sale for $149. Just a couple quick notes for you. The MKE 600, I love that it's got a built-in high-pass filter on it. You can just turn that on, and it's gonna knock out those low frequencies that you just don't need when it comes to dialogue. It also has the option to install a battery so that you don't need phantom power from your camera. You can just use a built-in battery. Now, if you don't have a battery, but you got phantom power coming through your line or from your camera, no problem. You just plug it in, turn on that phantom power, and you're gonna be good to go. Since the MKE 600 is a shotgun mic, it does a fantastic job of isolating sound and picking up just what you want it to pick up. It isolates a lot of that background noise or things behind the microphone that you wouldn't want to get. And I got to tell you, this is my favorite shotgun mic that I've used to date here. It just does a phenomenal job, and I can guarantee you guys would be happy with it if you were to pick up this mic, which is on sale right now. If we also bring into the picture here the MKE 400 right here, this thing is an on-camera mic. It's amazing. I gotta be honest here. This sounds so good. It's my new favorite on-camera mic right here.
You know, I'm actually amazed at how good this MKE 400 sounds for an on-camera mic. I mean, this is my favorite mic now that I'm using on camera because it sounds so good. It does a great job of isolating me from any kind of background noise. If I'm outside, if I'm vlogging, if I'm doing whatever, it doesn't even matter. It does a great job. I mean, the isolation on it is great. I got planes going on here. He's way up there, way up there. I got wind going on, and I mean, it just does a great job of picking me up, but not everything else around it. And you might not know this, but the MKE 600 has been my go-to mic for years here on my YouTube channel. So you go back and watch pretty much any video in the last, I don't know how long, it's filmed with the MKE 600. I've used it to film all kinds of stuff. It's awesome, and I love it. So if you guys are looking for awesome microphones, I mean, you cannot go wrong with Sennheiser. They're just top-notch, pro-level, and really are just some of the best mics out there, in my opinion, you know? So if you're looking for some, check it out. These guys are on sale, so you might want to check that out, because who doesn't love a good sale? And if you need a great microphone, Sennheiser's got them. So head on over, check it out.
It isolates whatever's in front of the camera. It doesn't pick up a lot around the mic. It does a really good job. Some of the cool features on this one is that it has a gain level that you can set on it. It also has the high pass filter built into it right on the side here. You can also monitor right through this unit right here. There's a little port on the side here. You plug in your headphones, get yourself some HD 280s here. You can plug them in and listen to what you're recording. It also has a volume knob right there, so you can turn it up and down so you know what you're hearing, and you can make sure you've got the proper volume for it. One of my other favorite things about this little microphone is that it automatically turns off when I turn the camera off, right? How many times have you forgot to turn off the microphone? When you shut your camera off, boom, the battery dies. You're like, ah, man, I got no batteries left. This one does it for you. You can use it on a camera just like this, a DSLR, a mirrorless camera. You can throw it up onto a shotgun mic and make a setup like that. They actually just had a good article on that. You can check that out. And you can actually also use it on a smartphone if you wanted to. So you've got lots of options, and this thing is just, it's really, really good. You can see the samples that I provided for you guys. Check it out and play with it, and use a little EQ on it if you even need it. A big thank you to Sennheiser for sponsoring today's video. I've been a huge fan of Sennheiser for years and years, and I've been using their equipment for years and years. It's just, they make such great stuff. It's all pro level equipment. The audio sounds great. Everything that I've tried from Sennheiser has just blown me away and been amazing. It's been such a privilege to work with them on this video. And if you're looking for some awesome audio equipment, check out the MKE 600 and the MKE 400. They're both on sale, $149 here. The MKE 600, $249. You really can't beat the deals for the quality that you get with your audio. So let's get into working with the EQ on a clip here. I'm going to use a clip that I'm going to provide to you guys. You can download these two separate samples. One's going to be in the studio using the Sennheiser MKE 600. The other that we're going to work with right now is using the MKE 400. And both of these are great mics, so we're actually at a pretty good starting point to start working with our audio and our dialogue. Now, another little tip, I'll leave a link down below. I have a free cheat sheet for you of where you can find some different problem areas when it comes to your dialogue, what frequencies to look in. And you can use that cheat sheet. It's free. Just go download it. And that's going to give you a good idea of where to look for different things that might be messing up your audio a little bit. So definitely go pick up that freebie. All right, let's jump in and start working with our EQ. So let's get into working with the EQ. Now, I'm going to give you my process that I typically go through. You can modify this process a little bit, but these are the kinds of things that you want to think of when it comes to fixing up your audio. Now, when it comes to dialogue, the first thing that I like to do is come to band 1 and turn that on. And what this is going to do is take out a lot of those lower end frequencies that just make our dialogue sound muddy, right? We don't need these low end frequencies in our vocals or our dialogue because it's just going to make things sound muddy. Now, if you're mixing a bass guitar or, some kick drum or something like that, that's a different story. But in this case, for dialogue, you want to get rid of those lower frequencies so that they don't cause problems as you start to work with your audio a little bit more. Now, typically, by default, the setting is going to be 70 kilohertz here, but I'd probably like to put it around maybe 100 to 120, somewhere in that range. But let's play through our clip, and we're going to listen to it, and we're basically just going to drag our 0.1 up until we hear difference, and then if it sounds like too much, we're going to back it off a little bit and leave it right there. So when I'm working with my dialogue, I like to take a section or a clip and I like to loop my dialogue so it just plays over and over again for me. So to do that, I'm going to come to my timeline. I'm going to set an out point and an in point. So because I'm at the beginning of my timeline, the in point gets set automatically. I go to where I want to stop, I press O, and I've got the out point automatically set there. Then in your toolbar right up here, we have this. This is the loop icon. This is also in the edit page, so you can do it there as well. And that'll just keep playing the clip over and over again. So that way we don't have to move it with the mouse and redo and all that kind of stuff. It'll just keep looping it over and over for us. So let's get started. I'm going to turn band 1 off. Then I'm going to turn it on, and I'm just going to bring it up until we hear a difference. Now, it's going to make a difference what you hear, whether you have some good headphones like the Sennheiser HD 280s, or if you've got some good monitor speakers. If you only have laptop speakers or something that's not that great, it may be harder to hear these changes. A lot of times they're going to be subtle changes that, as a whole, at the end of the day, are going to make a big difference. But a lot of things with audio work are going to be subtle, and the EQ is no exception to that. A lot of the changes are going to be subtle. So you want to listen closely, and it takes time to develop your ear. So let's go ahead and get started with band 1. Also, another tip is make sure that you set your audio levels in a good spot, minus 10 dB for your dialogue before you get started working with the EQ and stuff. So keep that in mind. Order of operations is important when it comes to working with your audio. All right, here we go.
If you're looking for some good audio, it starts with a great microphone, and the Sennheiser MKE 400 on-camera microphone here is amazing. It does a fantastic job. My new favorite on-camera mic here, but we're going to be using this to edit some EQ.
All right, so we made the change. It is very subtle, but we could see as the frequencies were, showing up in our graph here, we could see that we did cut out some of those lower end frequencies. And in this case, while it's not making a huge difference, it's just getting rid of that mud stuff down at the bottom that could cause a problem later on that we just don't need when it comes to our dialogue. Now, what I like to do is just work up through my different bands available to me here. And typically for bands 2, 3, 4, and 5, I like to use the bell-shaped curve because it just helps me find problem areas a little bit better. So I'm going to go ahead and click on the drop down here for band 2, click my bell-shaped curve. And now I can use these knobs and dials and move things around like that, but the easiest way to do it is just to come up into the graph area, grab your point, and we can just move it around like this. Now, how do we find the areas that don't sound good, especially if you don't know what you're listening for? Well, it is going to take some time to develop your ear and be able to hear these different things and know where to look for them, and that's where my EQ cheat sheet's going to come in handy for you. But if you're just getting started, an easy way to do it is to grab your point 2, and then you can just lift it up like this, and listen for something that sounds harsh to your ear. It could sound boxy, it could sound muddy. It's just gonna sound like off. You're gonna be like, ooh, that doesn't sound good, right? And that's how you know that that's a frequency where you probably wanna make a cut. Now, to be a little more exact with your frequencies, we'd wanna adjust our Q factor. And you can do that with your middle mouse wheel by scrolling your middle mouse wheel on the point here or you can just come down and adjust the Q factor, whatever works best for you. Typically, I use my middle mouse wheel. So let's say I'm going to go with something like this. Let's play through the clip now, and I'm just going to bring this up and move it around somewhere between 100 and maybe a little over 250 hertz and see what doesn't sound good, and then I'm going to make a little cut there. So let's go ahead and play through and see what we got.
Edit some EQ, you can see how we can change the sound of it, but when you start out with a microphone as good as this, a lot of times you don't need to do a whole lot. But don't worry, you're gonna have all the information that you need to be able to make your clip sound awesome, regardless of what kind of...
Okay, so I was actually able to go up a little bit higher, right? And we can move these points around wherever we want, and you don't always have to use all of them, right? So keep that in mind, you don't have to use all the clips available to us. So let's say that sounds a little harsh. Now I can just click this point and drag it down to make a little bit of a cut. Or what I like to do to make sure that I'm coming straight down is to use the gain knob here. So I'm going to play through it and then I'm going to bring that down and see if I can hear a difference.
Great microphone, and the Sennheiser MKE 400 on-camera microphone here is amazing. It does a fantastic job. My new favorite on-camera mic here.
So hopefully you guys can hear that. It kind of just takes out a little bit of that boxiness sound to it. And I think that works out pretty well. Now we can go through and do this with our other points and see if there's other areas that don't sound good. So one methodology of kind of doing this is to use a more exact kind of point to try and find things that don't sound good. So that means keeping this Q factor small. Now there's another way to think about it, and that is to do larger sweeping changes. So for example, with 0.4 here, you notice I'm cutting a lot more frequencies. I could do a lot more with this, right? So it depends on your clip and what you want to accomplish with it to determine, like, how do I want to do it? Do I want to be more surgical and affect less frequencies? Or do I want to make more broad strokes and affect more frequencies? So let's just take band 4 here, play through, and see what we can find with that.
We're going to be using this to edit some EQ. You can see how we can change the sound of it. But when you start out with a microphone as good as this, a lot of times you don't need to do a whole lot. But don't worry, you're going to have all the information that you need to be able to make your clip sound awesome, regardless of what kind of microphone that you're using. So let's get to it. If you're looking for some good audio, it starts with a great microphone and the...
So maybe something like right there. I know from my voice, a lot of times around that 800 hertz, there's a little bit of an issue there. So those two cuts, I think, sound pretty good. Now, a couple of tips here that you're going to find on that EQ cheat sheet is some different types of sounds that you might want to try and fix up when it comes to your dialogue. So, for example, in the 0 to 100 hertz range, somewhere around in here, you might hear a little bit of rumbling and extra bass, and you typically want to make a cut in that range. Now, between 100 and 350 hertz, you might hear something that kind of sounds like a little boomy, a little muffled, a little boxy, and I think we definitely have that in here, and I know most of my dialogue kind of has that sound that I want to just make a cut in there. It doesn't have to be 10 dB, it could be just a little bit. You don't have to go crazy with the EQ, but just that little bit is going to help make a difference. Now, you might also find that boxy, muffled kind of sound in between the 600 to 1K range. For me and my voice, I know around that 800 mark, so you can see we're at 765 right here. A lot of times I notice I need to make a little cut around there just to kind of clean it up a little bit. Sometimes if you sound a little nasally or a little honky, they even call it, you might want to make a cut in that 1 to 4.5K range, somewhere in here. Now, a lot of the dialogue, like meat of it, lives in that 800 to 2.5K range. So sometimes you might run into some problems in there and you want to kind of look in that range for things that don't sound good. Now, let's say your dialogue's a little muffled, right? It's a little bit hard to understand. You want to make it a little bit crisper because maybe you're using like a lav mic or something and it's just not as crisp and clear as you'd like it to be. In order to increase the clarity of your dialogue, you actually might want to make a boost in the 5 to 7K range, somewhere right here. So if I take my band 5 and just to show you what that sounds like, I'm going to use my bell-shaped curve and I'm going to make a boost right in here somewhere just so you can hear the difference. So let me play through and listen to the increase in clarity as I make a boost right here in the EQ frequencies.
Sennheiser MKE 400 on-camera microphone here is amazing. It does a fantastic job. My new favorite on-camera mic here. But we're going to be using this to edit some EQ. You can see how we can change the...
So can you hear how it got crispier, right? It got sharper and clearer. And that's going to do a great job if your audio sounds a little muffled and you're like, I want a little more clarity. I want to be able to understand and hear that dialogue a little bit clearer. A little boost in that range is going to make a big difference for you. Now, if we wanted to add a little more presence and kind of air to the voice, this comes in handy a lot with singing vocals, but it can come in handy too with dialogue at times. You might want to make a boost somewhere in the 8 to 10K range, so somewhere up in here. So let me just play through a little bit of it, and we'll just see what it does on this particular clip.
Starts with a great microphone, and the Sennheiser MKE 400 on-camera microphone here is amazing. It does a fantastic job. My new favorite on-camera mic here.
So hopefully you can hear how it kind of added a little more presence, a little bit of air and breathiness and just a little bit of sparkle to it. So you may not need that when it comes to dialogue, but if you're mixing vocals, singing vocals, up in this range here, it's really going to add a nice sparkle and presence and pop to the voice that you might be singing. And lastly, we have anything over 15K. Now, typically, when it comes to normal spoken word dialogue, you're not going to need anything up in that range. So typically what I do is I just go ahead and turn on band 6, and I'll just bring it back a little bit just to take off some of those high frequencies that might come through that I just don't need when it comes to dialogue. So let's give this a quick little before and after a listen here and see how it sounds. I'm actually going to turn my band 5 back on and add a little bit of that clarity right in this range right here. So let's go ahead a little before and after, see how it sounds.
If you're looking for some good audio, it starts with a great microphone, and the Sennheiser MKE 400 on-camera microphone here is amazing. It does a fantastic job. My new favorite on-camera mic here, but we're going to be using this to edit some EQ. You can see how.
So can you hear how it cleaned it up a little bit? It just sounds a little crisper, a little bit better. Now it sounds like, hey, maybe I'm missing a little low end, right? I want to bring in more of that, like, radio kind of voice. I want more bass and low end to it. So we can do that in the EQ. There's also other methods to do it that I'm not going to talk about in this video. We can use the EQ to kind of help bring some of that back. So since we didn't use our point number 3 here, we can actually use point number 3 to do that. And we're going to want to make a boost in the lower end frequencies, somewhere between maybe 125 and 250, somewhere around there is going to help bring out more of the body and the fullness of your dialogue. So let's go ahead and I'm going to make my Q factor a little smaller here. We're going to play through the clip and see if we can find where that is and increase it so there's just a little more fullness to the voice.
If you're looking for some good audio, it starts with a great microphone, and the Sennheiser MKE 400 on-camera microphone here is amazing. It does a fantastic job. My new favorite on-camera mic here, but we're going to be using this to edit some EQ. You can see how we can change the sound of it, but when you start out with a microphone as good as this, a lot of times you don't need to do a whole lot. But don't worry, you're going to have all the information that you need to be able to make your clip sound awesome, regardless of what kind of microphone that you're using. So let's get to it. If you're looking for some good audio, it starts with a great microphone, and the Sennheiser.
So I think that helped add back in some of that lower end to the vocal. Now, most of the time when I want to bring some of that back, I generally don't do it in the EQ, although you can, it's no problem. I typically use other methods like a multi-band compressor to do that, but let's give it overall a quick before and after, and you can hear the difference.
MKE 400 on-camera microphone here is amazing. It does a fantastic job. My new favorite on-camera mic here, but we're going to be using this to edit some EQ. You can see how we can change the sound of it, but when you start out with a microphone as good as.
So what do you think? Can you hear the difference? Again, it's subtle. The changes are not huge, but as we move forward, and if we were to mix in more music, sound effects, other dialogue, it's just going to help everything kind of stay glued together, sound good, and no problems are going to get, accentuated or increased as we move through our audio editing process. Now, this is a great microphone, the MKE 400 that we're working with right here. So we didn't have to do a whole lot of cuts and look for problem areas, but some microphones, I can tell you off the bat, require a lot of cutting, right? And lav mics are notorious for needing some EQ work to get them to sound good. But the quality of the initial recording and the microphone that you use is going to make a big difference when it comes to working with that audio, working with the EQ, and making it sound the best that you can. And that's part of the reason that I use a lot of Sennheiser mics, because they're pro-level mics. They give you awesome audio to start with as you start your audio editing process. And I'm just always impressed with the quality right off the bat. So I did provide another audio file for you to go through. You can do the same process, look for these different frequencies, use that cheat sheet to look for those different kinds of sounds that you kind of want to take care of. But keep in mind, if you're not sure where to look, just come into your EQ, grab any point, bring it up and sweep it back and forth. And when you hear something where you're like, ooh, that doesn't sound good, that's where you're going to want to make a cut like this. So you don't even have to know all the frequencies and where to look for stuff. You could just use your ear, and it's going to take some time to train your ear to listen to these things, but you can do this. You just got to get in there, play with it, use your ear, train yourself on what you're listening for, and then you can make cuts or boost if you need to. And the EQ is really going to help you sculpt and shape your audio, your dialogue, so that it sounds the best that you can make it. So once you've got your EQ set, let's talk about a few more things. If your levels fall a little low after you've done your EQ work, because sometimes it does, you can always come over here and boost your gain back up. So let's see where our levels are falling on our meter down here, and if I need to boost them or reduce them, raise or lower them, then we can do that right there in the EQ. MKE 400 on-camera microphone here is amazing. It does a fantastic job. My new favorite on-camera mic here, but we're going to be using this to edit some EQ. You can see how. All right, so slight boost, 1.4 dB, I boosted it up. And now I think we're good to go with our dialogue and the levels that it's set at. Now, if we like this setting and we want to save these as a preset because maybe you use this microphone often and you want to save it as a preset so you don't have to go through this process every time, we can easily do that by coming and clicking on the plus icon right here and add an EQ preset. You'll get this pop-up window. We can say create new. We can name it. I'm going to call it MKE 400 because that's the microphone it was for. Hit OK. And now it's saved. So if I ever want to recall it, I can click on this little drop down. Let's just say I picked a different preset, one of my other EQ presets, and then I'm like, oh, I'm using the MKE 400. I need to change it to that. Click the drop down, MKE 400, and there we go. I've got my settings. I'm all good to go. Now, this isn't the only place that you can apply your EQ settings. If I close this window, we can come up to the Fairlight menu up top and presets library right here. In our presets library, we do have our EQ presets, but we can also save a whole bunch of other audio presets. I've got some videos on those, but if you wanted to save an EQ preset, you would just select your track and then say save new, create new, then go ahead and name it whatever you'd like, hit OK, and it's going to be right there in your presets. Now, if you wanted to apply that preset to a track, all you have to do is find the preset you want to use. Right here, I've got MKE 400. You would then click your audio track, make sure it's highlighted, and click apply, and boom, it's going to apply that EQ preset right onto your track. Now, in addition to our track level EQ, we also now in DaVinci Resolve 20 have the EQ as an effect that we can apply onto either just a clip or an entire track. So this is great. If we come to our effects library here in Fairlight, and this also works in the edit tab, come to your Fairlight effects, you can see we have the Fairlight EQ right here. And if you were to just click, hold, drag, and drop it on your track right here, it's going to apply it as an effect right here. It's the exact same EQ that we were just looking at, has all the same tools, same features, same knobs, buttons, and dials. It's exactly the same thing. So now we could have two EQs on a given track if we wanted to. Maybe you want to make cuts on the main track level EQ, take out all those harsh frequencies, and then you want to go back and boost up some of the frequencies like maybe the lower end or the bass or something. So you pulled out the bad frequencies and now you can bring everything up to add some bass and fullness to it if you wanted to. But you've got options now on how you can work with the EQ. I'm going to go ahead and close that out and delete it off of my track here. And now we can also add that same effect right onto a clip itself. So a single clip, just click, hold, drag it onto a clip, let go. And there we go, exact same EQ window. And you can do this right here in Fairlight, or you can do it right in the edit tab. Either way, it's just fine. It's going to work out the same. Now, the other EQ that is available that you could use if you want, we've had for a long time, is if you select your clip, open up your inspector, and right down here in the audio section, we have the EQ right here. You can turn that on, and now this is a 6-band EQ. It used to only be a 4-band, but we've got the exact same tools here. There's no buttons, but these numbers and locations here do the exact same thing that we've already talked about in the EQ. You can turn things on and off. If you turn your EQ on, you can turn the different parts on and off. You can adjust it however you want. So you can use this to edit a specific clip if you want to as well. And another bonus tip here for you is the order of operations is really important when it comes to audio. It's going to affect how your audio sounds as you do different things to it. So the first part of the audio process is always to set your levels, right? Make sure you've got your levels set in a good spot. Minus 10 dB is what I recommend for dialogue. The next thing that you want to do to your audio is remove any background noise if you have any. The third thing you want to do is come into the Fairlight tab and look at the order here. I like to work with the EQ next so that I take out any problem areas before I get to adding in any dynamics and compression and effects, because if you add in dynamics and effects before you EQ and take out any problem areas, it's just going to make those problems worse, right? So we don't want to do that. So I'd recommend that you come to the order here, click that little drop down, and I like to use EQ, then dynamics, then effects. Now you can do it however you want. This is just the way that I like to do it, but I like to remove the problem areas first and then go ahead and sweeten things up with a little compression, little effects, and things like that. But just know that whatever order you use, it's going to affect your clips differently. So now you know everything you need to know about using the EQ and how to work with your audio and dialogue and get rid of those problem areas, make it sound better. You got this. You just got to get in there, try it out, play with it a little bit. If you've got questions, leave me a comment down below. I'm always game for giving you guys some audio advice or listening to your clips maybe, and even helping you out edit them if you need it. I love all kinds of audio stuff. It's so important when it comes to your video because audio is, I'd say, more important than the video. You can have awesome visuals, but if it doesn't sound good, let's be honest, nobody wants to watch it. So now you are an EQ expert, or at least you're almost an expert, and you're going to be able to make your audio sound awesome as well. So a big thank you again to Sennheiser for sponsoring today's video. Love you guys. Thank you so much. And with that said, I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Peace.